We have resurrections, we have superpowers, we have a returning enemy, we have an episode which really took me by surprise. And this is the season finale of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, New Life and New Civilizations. It did something to me that I am going to talk about. It's no Star Trek show has ever done. Introducing the VZDA as a concept, which is obviously the prisoners slash demons they keep talking about. I don't particularly like the religious element, but you want to go evil, you want to go evil. I genuinely was interested at how they begun this episode with a very family openness and closeness of this crew, which we have felt over the time of the show. Captain Pike and Battelle being in their quarters with the crew, having a party, Scotty coming in, falling for the same trick as Uhura did in season 1 by wearing his Scottish dress uniform, which is cool. Pelia making a random comment about a doctor she used to travel with. Is this Doctor Who? We don't know. So there's a lot of humor and fun in that beginning. We find out that the rank is obviously going to be going up for Battelle, so Spock and I are going to run some diagnostics and just deal with some ship's things. The ship's been through some shot. When we do cut to them investigating, we find out that something's gone with the transporter. Corby is on a planet named Skygrower or Skygrower, I'm not sure. And he messages them talking about how it has similar markings to the planet they were on before, which had all the demons in it, the VZDA, and how he's there and he's really, really interested. We find out that the VZDA had used the transporter buffer's backup pattern for Nurse Gambler, and recreated him and then sent him across ley lines, which it's space. Once again, I don't really mind. And he is now on this planet where Corby is. They are worshipping him like a god. He's wearing a really interesting, I want to say, Stargate-ish outfit. And actually the beginning of this episode where they're on this planet does feel very Stargate. We finally get a strange new world in Strange New Worlds. This planet, Skygrower or Skygross, I don't fucking know, I've forgotten. But it's got lots of Hellraiser, Necronomicons? Little puzzle from Hellraiser, floating in the sky, pyramids, really interesting planet, lots of aliens on the planet. Roger Corby is obviously surprised to see Gambler there. It's really, really creepy. So the Enterprise is on the way, they get to the planet and they see that this is all happening. M'Benga and number 1 do a really good drunkenness, so La'an can come up and Vulcan nerve pinch the 2 guards to the portal to the next section of the tower, of which Spock tried to teach Chapel, but Chapel couldn't get it. So they have this interesting bickering moment, like comparing it. So they're obviously not that jealous of each other, or Chapel was just jealous she couldn't do the Vulcan nerve pinch. They get into the room and they notice writing on the artifact, which looks like a door to the Vespa. Vespa sounds like a car. Vesta. And it has Swahili on there, of which Uhura notices, and M'Benga notices. M'Benga reads it. It's a story about him as a child. Obviously, a bit weird. They get confused, and then we find out that Gambler has been waiting for M'Benga to arrive because the 2 of them can open the door to the other planet and release the VZDA. So they get through. M'Benga's like, what the fuck's going on? This is kind of wacky. Battelle, once Gambler has attacked the statue from the earlier episode, the figure, gets hurt. And we see this and it's like, okay, a little weird. Her eyes turn starry. Mbanga manages to trick him into getting through another door, pushing him in, running away to escape. We cut back to the Enterprise and Pike is informed that Batel is ill. He runs to sickbay. We see her with her glowy eyes and we are informed that she is the protective statue within the VZDA pyramid-y thing. And that we learn her DNA and her has been altered by obviously the Gorn DNA, the Illyrian DNA, human DNA, giant monkey DNA, whatever else she's been injecting into herself in the last couple of times. And she had we'd seen before that she had a strong reaction to Nurse Gambler being in trouble. So she feels like it's her destiny to go and fight Nurse Gamble or the VZDA. And she sort of says to Pike, like, you should know everything about destiny. And it's really sort of played on it. Pike knows the gravity. He knows it has to be done. There's a really interesting moment where they talk about how, because they're interdimensional species, time doesn't necessarily have to go in the same way. So this could be the beginning of the statue and the end at the same time, which is interesting. I really enjoyed that. Pike goes with her, but the only way to get through the big imaginary door without Mbanga and Gambler is for them to use the power of their phasers. They need the power of a sun, which apparently is 2 ships worth of phasers, together in unison, of which they invite, of course, Captain James T. Kirk. And there's an interesting interaction between Kirk and Spock and Ortegas as they inform him that in order to maintain their synchronicity, Spock and Kirk need to mind meld. And he makes a funny quip about something he did on Orion. So we get the mind meld, which is really nice. It's once again building that relationship between Kirk and Spock. They are synchronized. They're ready to go. They fly the ships in a perfect synchronicity, and they fire at the planet, opening the door. Pike and Batel go through the door, and they are in the room with the big statue, the Protector. The VZDA Nurse Gamble comes through. You know, these cool shots of these monsters sort of going into him and stuff like that. Mbanga gets knocked out, and then Batel doesn't know whether she can do this or not because she's not reacting the same. Pike says, "You're made for this, you can do this." And Batel turns around, her hands start glowing, but Gamble is shooting at the statue. It's hurting her, and she gets ready to go, and then we flash to white. Now, when I saw her hands glowing, I thought superhero. I thought they're going to do a fucking superhero captain. They're going to make Batel like fucking kick his ass with some fisty fights. That is not what happened. Instead, we get a cut to Pike and Batel living in a house, been married a few years, and she buys him a Chef Pike apron. And we get glimpses into a life. We know the future's coming. They've promised to be with each other to life. So the first is them sort of being married for 2 years. The second one is they have a small dog. Then they have a small child, a daughter. The daughter gets engaged to Roger Aprilson. And then they're old, and Patel is in bed and she's dying. Throughout each one of these scenes, there's a knocking at the door, of which Patel makes Pike avoid, or at least makes him ignore it, or it's someone else, but there's a knock at the door. And I honestly, at this point, you know something's going on. But we cut to the old one, and Batel sort of says it's time to open the door. There's a streak of a meteorite in the atmosphere behind Pike's bed. Pike's getting old. They're both old. They've lived a life together. In the middle of the sequence, Pike even surpasses his accident, of which puts him in the beepy chair. And he's stunned because he's got all this life to live, and he's confused as to why his destiny didn't happen. And we see that life. There's photos along the wall of a well-lived life, things going on. And in that scene where Patel is dying, she sort of says, look, go open the door. This is a gift. And he doesn't understand, he doesn't get it. And when he opens the door, they are back facing the Nurse Gamble. And we see that Pike is, I want to say, sad but accepting, because he releases all of the Vendra? I've forgotten the name of the fucking creature midway through. But he releases all of the creatures from the prison and she puts them back and she becomes the statue. Pike looks solemn. So that was sad. Patel dying, and her referencing, that he had, in the sequence of her life, referencing the first episode we see them together, where she mentions about his beard and what he's going to do with Starfleet. There's a lot of callbacks to their relationship. And genuinely, I was surprised at how much I liked their relationship. I don't think I recognized it. I think it grew on me and I just didn't know about it. So when Pike returns to the ship and he's sitting in his quarters drinking scotch with Una, and she asks, do you want to talk about it? And he says, not yet. Someday, but not yet. We cut to him talking about the finality of life and how those we love aren't truly gone. And we have Spock interacting with Kirk, and then Kirk interacting with Sam, Uhura, Tegas, La'an, all of our characters being together, and him narrating this beautiful speech about the finality of life and how people we love are important, and sometimes you lose them. And I genuinely, I'm really choked up now talking about this. Me and Ribbit watched this episode, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to hold in the cry. There's music playing, sad, very sad. I'm holding in, I'm literally, I'm crying. I tried to hold it in. I tried. I don't cry at TV shows generally, especially not Star Trek. And Ribbit's sitting next to me, and I'm like, is he crying? He sounds like he's crying. And then he did a big sniffle, and I knew he was crying. And I sat there, and I'm like, what the fuck? The episode ends with Pike on the bridge and the crew sort of being happy and talking about how they like to hit it. And there's a connection between this crew. And we get that Spock and Kirk playing chess, and they decide to be friends. And La'an's, there's so much highlighting the relationships of this crew of people, and Pike having lost the most important person in his life. And ultimately, he's going to lose his own life. And I genuinely did not expect to cry at a Star Trek show. Look, when Picard in Family talks about how he was treated by the Borg, I got choked up in my throat. Last week's with Terrarium, choked up in my throat. I was bawling at this. Bawling. Ribbit mentioned something that there's a point where Pike's voice tremors a little because he's sad, he's hurting inside, but he knows that she had to do it, and he got a whole life with her. So he's sad at the same time. He's happy and he's sad at the same time. He got everything he wanted, a life after the accident that will cripple him. But at the same time, he has that to come. And it's but he faces that alone without Patel. He's got no one there. And it's, oh my God, I can't talk about it too much because he's alone. It's making me cry now. And having that kind of thing happen in the episode, and me thinking, oh, maybe I'm just emotional that day, and then the person next to me crying as well, it killed me. We spent the rest of the day talking about, well, I did, Ribbit probably got a bit forced into it, but I spent the rest of the day talking about how it was handled, how it was done, how I felt like the characters, everyone was used perfectly. The speech was perfect. Anson Mount acted it perfectly. Battelle acted it perfectly. It was genuinely... Strange New Worlds this season hasn't been, I wouldn't say as good as season 1 and 2, but this episode alone makes up for that. Because Star Trek making me feel something is what I want. And this episode made me feel something. Now, I don't know what you thought about this episode. All I know is I cried like a bitch. And I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I hope you enjoyed this review, even though it was a bit wacky. If you could like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you. We'll be back with Voyager reviews and animated series and probably Enterprise and random topics. So stick with it. I've been Trek Trav. And this is the end of season 3 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds.